Hello, my name is Danielle Arianis. I chose to discuss job ambiguity, and I'm going to focus on the negative impact of it. Job ambiguity is when you have a role at your workplace and you're not quite sure of what the responsibilities and tasks are to do with this role. This can be pretty stressful because you want to show your employers that you are capable of the job, but you might not know what exactly to do with this job. So this can lead to low productivity, which is bad for the business as a whole. Another term that's similar to job ambiguity is role ambiguity, and this is defined as being unsure of tasks of role one is playing in the workplace. The real world problem is a personal experience. I was hired at a pizza joint, and they were extremely vague with what my responsibilities as a cashier was. And so, for instance, I asked what I was supposed to wear to the job, and the only description they gave me was just be casual. And I showed up to my first day, and they told me to go on a delivery, and I didn't even have a car because I didn't even know that was part of my job. I had certain responsibilities, and I wasn't sure when to do them, how exactly to do them, and I was given very little guidance, and this just gave me anxiety every time I came to work because I wanted to be productive and I wanted to be a good worker. I just wasn't given the tools how, and I was constantly questioning how I was performing and if I was doing a good enough job. In the IO psychology textbook, job ambiguity is actually one of the work role stressors. They define job ambiguity as the responsibilities of a job being unclear to the employee. And it's actually quite intertwined with another term, role uncertainty, which is not receiving feedback of how one is doing. Both of these can be extremely stressful to the job. And the book states that this actually is caused by the supervisors not clarifying the specific duties of a job to a new employee. And it's up to the supervisors to further clarify and fix this problem. And it's job ambiguity is highly correlated with worker dissatisfaction. And if you're having unsatisfied workers, this can lead to turnover, and this is really bad for a business. The textbook also ties in a term, role conflict, which is the struggles of juggling multiple roles at once. These roles can be in and outside of the workplace. For example, the role of being an employee and the role of being a parent. Those two roles can be in competition with each other, which can produce a lot of stress. Or the roles can be both within the workplace and say you're just overwhelmed with all of the responsibilities to do with each role and you just can't fulfill either of them adequately. The research article I chose was on the relationship between role ambiguity, role conflict, and job satisfaction. The predictors were role ambiguity and role conflict, while the criterion was job satisfaction. Satisfaction was measured in terms of relationships and support, denominational involvement, and intrinsic aspects. The hypothesis was that there were going to be a negative relationship between role ambiguity and relationships and support and denominational involvement. And the second hypothesis was that role conflict would negatively impact intrinsic aspects. The results found that role conflict and role ambiguity were each separately negatively correlated with all three measures of job satisfaction and overall job satisfaction. There was an interaction between role conflict, role ambiguity, and intrinsic aspects of job satisfaction. When role ambiguity was low, there lacked a significant correlation between role conflict and intrinsic aspects. But when role ambiguity was high, there was a significant negative correlation between role conflict and intrinsic aspects. The study thus shows that role ambiguity negatively impacts the employee with increased amounts of stress and lowered levels of job satisfaction. If I were an IO psychologist and had to create a solution to this problem, I would go in and observe and create a detailed job description. With this job description, I would educate the supervisor on all the tasks and responsibilities of the employees that they need to be supervising. I would train the supervisor how to train new employees to make sure that the employees are made clear of what their responsibilities are and how to do them and when to do them. I would also have the supervisor give the employees regular feedback of how they're doing so the employee can either improve or keep on doing a good job. And when it comes to training, I would have the supervisor have the new employee hands-on doing the skills, and so they can pick it up quickly instead of observing and not necessarily knowing how to do it themselves. Supervisors generally have other tasks of their own job to do besides training new employees, but if they do put in the effort and time into training the new employees well, they would have to supervise them in the future less. Also, the productivity of this new employee will increase sooner, and more productivity by the employees means better business for the corporation in general. And a little update to do with my personal experience. I'm guessing due to the job ambiguity, the employees in my old establishment were anxious, they weren't productive, and didn't have good customer service. And actually, the pizza joint is now closed. So that just shows what can happen if there's high levels of job ambiguity. So that wraps up my presentation. Thank you.